Well, we have this friend, Mark Cosgrove, who runs a cinema in Bristol, and we'd been commissioned by another venue, Colston Hall, soon to not be called Colston Hall, to write the score for a silent film. And so Mark showed us in his cinema, I think 20, something like 20 films or something.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the silent cinema thing, there's so many. I mean, first of all, a lot of them are, not representative of the films they used to be. They've kind of lost their original edits. Bits have fallen off, bits are burnt, probably. Other people have just scissored bits out to fit them in the can or whatever it is. So there's lots of crazy edits in them. And of course, when you're trying to do music, that's not what you want to be doing. Is trying to deal with flipping around. You want some kind of argument that develops and has a bit of gravitas that you can maintain and give some musical space to, that then will unfold without having to be sidetracked in a plot or an edit or somewhere location way. And of course, that's what this film had. It had this amazing. Well, the very first scene is 17 minutes long, and it's in one location, in one mood, with one sort of trajectory. So you're given, therefore, there's 17 minutes of musical space to fill, and none of the other films had that kind of gravitas and long sort of progression of musical development possibility.
I imagine to some extent, if I'm thinking about it, we probably had some kind of an agenda between us that we'd already thought out about instrumentation slightly, or at least a musical kind of world that we wanted to inhabit. And rather than just finding a film and then serving the film, we had a slight idea about what we wanted, and actually that completely fitted. The slow pace of it enabled us to do the kind of things that we wanted, and the kind of instrumentation that we wanted as well.
Well, that's very important, isn't it? What you're saying there about how, as you as a composer relate to the film, because obviously you are giving over your entire sort of imagination and ideas to what is an existing piece. And there has to feel like that you're getting something back from it. You're being given the opportunity to, come up with ideas that you want to come up with.
Yeah, because you need to be inspired musically to do it, and also to serve the film, and not try and dominate the film, because you are there to underscore this action and this idea that this person had.
Well, yes, and I think that one of the great traditions of silent film is that you improvise to the picture.
Yeah,
and that is where this idea of you're allowing the actor to do what they do amazingly well and not sort of tread on it, but at the same time you're supporting that. So it does feel like very much like a duet, and you're responding. And if you're sitting down looking at a bit of music that's been written out and not observing the screen and just playing it, that space is not as interesting ultimately, certainly for certain crucial moments of the film where things are so dramatic that they're sort of so in the moment that I think that's where improvisation is very important in silent cinema. I
think so, and I think actually, I think a bit of both is good. If you've got a score that you have some flexibility with, and you've got things that work, they work, because we all know how difficult it is to improvise to an hour and a half film. It can sometimes work and it can sometimes not. So it's good to have a plot, isn't it? That this is going to be okay, and then this area is improvised, so that you've got the feeling for the moment and for what is happening on the screen. Very difficult to. I mean, there's very little improvising in Joan.
But that was very much something we talked about, wasn't it? About to building in these moments of flexibility. So that we're with the actors, and a lot of the time. There'll be a sort of repeating motif, and then some individual will be soloing and looking at the screen, so that they fulfil that role while the backing is sort of being fleshed out by the 20 or so musicians.
Yeah, we had a theme, didn't we? A Joan theme.
Yeah.
That was made out of, actually, I know it was a written tune, but we also had code as well, where we took letters and turned them into musical notes
from Joan of Arc,
yes.
Jeanne d'Arc.
Yeah. And so there was a bit of thematic writing, but it wasn't. I don't think we did that thing of Peter and the Wolf. Here comes the wolf, and here comes. This is the. Which I think works. I think it works if you. But we didn't do that. There's a little bit of thematic stuff that repeats, but we didn't have themes for characters.
No, I think early on that theme is identified with her, from what I remember, in the trial scene.
Yeah.
And there's that moment where she says some brilliant things about, she won't answer them, she won't give them what they want to hear. She kind of answers them in these wonderful riddles. And I think there is that's when the Joan theme comes out, when her character, this defiance and this sort of rebelliousness and absolute doggedly, I'm not going to give you how I relate to my God, that's personal. And but I think after that, we know who she is, we kind of know, it's more like what she's going through that we're sort of picking up on.
And we did repeat that theme throughout. 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it becomes in different guises, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, we chose that palette because, you'd wanted to work with a choir, a kind of, I guess, medieval style. We were looking at early music, weren't we? And
you'd been working with guitars, so you definitely knew you wanted a guitar sort of mini ensemble orchestra.
Yeah, I was interested in the kind of weaving of 6 guitars, things that you could play on one guitar, being played on 6 and split up between 6 guitars. So one, like if you're finger picking a guitar and there was 6 notes going on, then I would divide it up between 6 guitars and everybody would play one, almost like like an orchestra. And I was interested in that kind of concept, and also the kind of drone-ness of that, with tuning guitars all to one note and having this kind of, almost like you say, hurdy-gurdy type drone, medieval but not really medieval instruments, electric guitars. Don't think they had them then, did they?
Electric guitars.
I don't think they did.
They had to wait, didn't they?
Yeah.
And also Charles, the conductor, gave us access to a choir beforehand to sort of experiment with, and that was very useful.
Yeah, because you'd written some beautiful sketches for choir to get ideas, and we were listening to is it David Murray or somebody you gave me?
David Monroe.
Monroe, yeah, the early music guy.
Yes.
So we were listening to that kind of thing, and you'd written some sketches.
And what's his name? Perotin. I got very into Perotin. Vider and Omnes.
Is this the Notre Dame?
Yeah, the Notre Dame school, where they, for the first time, somebody had the idea of having a harmony to the melody. And apparently, at the time, they all, it was like psychedelic, like taking drugs.
Yeah.
When they heard the harmony, they all sort of went insane. And
especially in that long reverb of Notre Dame, where the huge space, you could hear this massive blooming harmony. I think they'd sung in unison before that. In just
all
one
been
note.
in unison or in octaves.
Octaves,
but to do fifths and thirds, that was something hadn't been allowed into the church or something. Anyway, so there was a bit of inspiration from Perotin. And also Charles gave us a choir to experiment on, and so some of the ideas were like, everybody's singing a glissando. It's not actually quite as beautiful.
And we also tried quarter tones, which is very, very difficult in between the cracks. Mm-hmm. I think we were listening to the score for Polanski's film...
The Fearless Vampire Kid.
Yes, and the score for that is amazing. And they're bending the notes out of tune with each other and stuff. I remember talking about that at the time.
Yes.
I don't think we ended up with any... Well, little bits of it.
Little bits remained, but certainly it was very good to see the reality of what all these fantastic ideas were.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I get excited about film music because of collision of styles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that so many great film scores have been, the composers have been allowed to be this chameleon where they've, on the one hand, they've put on their easy listening hat, and then the next minute they've put on their Stockhausen hat, and the next minute they've put on their bossa nova hat or whatever it is, but they've been allowed to morph between different styles. And within, presumably, in some of these amazing film recording sessions, on one corner there will have been, taiko drum orchestra.
Yeah.
On the other side there'll have been, a sort of Hebridean pipe band or something. And you'll have had all this stuff going on in one place. And I think that is an exciting thing, and it also has enabled. It's been educational, I think, for audiences, because some of these sort of hitherto unknown styles, unpopular styles,
Yeah, absolutely,
have been kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah.
Trojan horse style.
And they've created an identity. If you think of Ipcress file and the cimbalom, that is within traditional orchestral instruments, bass, flute, and strings, and piano, and then there's this funny hammer, dulcimer, cimbalom, Romanian instrument in the middle of it, and it's a very spy sound, because that was created by John Barry, and it is really an amalgam of cultures, which is really exciting always, isn't it? I'm always excited by the idea of pure electronic synthesizers, old analog synthesizers and orchestras together, which you've done a lot of.
We did 2 performances of it. One was at the Globe Theatre in London, which is an open air space, really. So couldn't be more opposite to where we did the second, which is in Wells Cathedral, which is this immense, beautiful, effectively shoebox sort of dimensions, but actually for certain scenes, like when the choir are really blossoming and blooming, that ecclesiastical space is perfect.
It's beautiful, yeah.
But then there's this outside scenes at the end where, the crowd are running riot and the guitars are going for it, that maybe that slightly drier, more precise sound works from the Globe. And also, doing it in front of an audience is very special. And I think I remember particularly after the Globe performance, somebody or 2 or 3 people came up to me who were really quite in a bad way, I would say. One of them was from Northern Ireland and had lived through the Troubles, obviously, which has a contemporary religious fraught situation there, and she was really in bits, I think, at the end of it. And it was sort of amazing to see, what power had been unleashed during that performance, and you can't reproduce that in
a studio.
No,
it's quite difficult. That's right. Yeah, we were going to record it in a studio to have complete and utter control, and able to, for you and I, to take it away once we'd recorded all the musicians and add some more things, and stereo and all of the things. But I think in reality, we've got something more powerful and a little more fluid than possibly you would have in a studio. But I think that's its power. It's a response. It's a live response to what's happening, and I'm glad we did that. And the 2 spaces we played in were very, very useful for us. As you say, the Globe had a very dead sound, which was good for the power of the brass and the guitars, and Wells Cathedral was absolutely beautiful for the voices, and actually would have been very difficult to reproduce in a studio somewhere. You can use modern effects, but the sound of the church, the cathedral, was amazing. And it's that huge history of Wells Cathedral for choral music, and that's soaked up into its perpendicular Gothic interior. Beautiful space, and it's actually quite inspiring being in there, isn't it? Just looking, and particularly with this film. I had trepidation about whether we should actually perform Joan. We've done it twice in churches and cathedrals. We did Bath Abbey and Wells Cathedral, and I thought it might be kind of a bit of an obvious choice, but actually it really worked, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the ecclesiastical setting for it, it just sort of doubles the power of the hypocrisy.
It does.
And the, on the other side, the absolute faith and devotion side of it, it sort of becomes even more three-dimensional.
Yeah, definitely. It's time to do another one and
that's
use some new ideas.
Put energy into something that you've done already. It's always good to do something new.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll find another Joan, though. I mean,
No, it's very difficult. I've been looking for films and extremely difficult to find something as powerful and kind of perfect in a way.